Hi, can everybody hear me?
I don't know about everybody, but sure.
All right, I'd like to get started here. I will call the meeting to order and I welcome everybody, new members, including to the 2024 City Council. I can see we have most of our council members present, but I also want to welcome the staff also joining us tonight. Due to the storm, we do need to get an acting chair, so I'd like to turn that over to Mr. Anderson if there's not any objections.
Thank you, Acting Chair Bloom. What I've got is I've already shown you these papers. I'm just going to put it in this BYU beanie. If you're a BYU fan, you can. And the reason we're doing this for the residents that are here, the reason that we're doing this is you really, the way our council rules are set up, the chair has to be present so they can see the microphone names of who desires to speak because they conduct the meeting. Acting Chair Bloom is out of town and participating via Zoom. And so even though she is the acting chair, she can't run this meeting being remote. We're still waiting for a couple council members to arrive who've been delayed by the storm. So for the acting chair, since we don't really have a provision, we're just actually going to pull a name. All of these folks up here are seasoned. They've been on the council either before or have been on the council for the last 2 to 4 years. So, no. Oh, there's Kent. I got to put Kent's name in. No. And I'm going to have Patrick pull the name out. No pressure, Patrick. I can cut you that. Okay, the name that was pulled out was Chad Lamb. So Chad Lamb will be the acting chair until we elect a new chair and vice chair later in the meeting.
I'm just going to stay in this seat.
That's fine.
All right. I might be seasoned, but I'm not seasoned. I've had 2 years of not doing this, so bear with me. First, you knocked me out. I didn't want to recognize, since Chris wasn't at our last meeting, former council member Chris McConaughey is with us today, and we wanted to thank you for your service publicly, and we're glad you're here tonight. All right, we will first have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Whitelock has told me that Chris will actually give that for us. So, former Councilmember Chris McConaughey.
Right. Would the audience please arise? Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags have been swapped. Please repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you, Chris. And Pamela, I know you're not with us, but thank you for calling us to order tonight. And we hope you're safe in the land of no snow where you're at.
Thank you.
Okay, while we wait for Councilmember Bador to arrive, we will move forward. Number 3 is council business, which is the resolution to certify elections for council chair. We'll push that off until Mr. Bador arrives. So at this time, we'll move forward with public comment. Alan, you'll have to help us out with any public comment online because I do not have any computer issues set up to do the online. But we'll first start with those who are here in the room. So comments for public comment. I'm just gonna read this real quick. Comments should be directed to the council chair, and commenters should not expect any debate with responses from the city council, mayor, city staff. However, as appointed personal privilege council members, the mayor and staff may respond to public comments if recognized by the council chair. Members of the city council strive to create a respectful and professional decorum during council meetings so that the meeting can be conducted in an orderly and efficient and effective manner. So if we have anybody that is here in the room tonight that would like to have any public comments, please come forward at this time and please state your name and city of residence.
Okay, my name is Kathy McConaughey and I am from West Jordan. And tonight I would like to make a request that is regarding the cemetery and the timing for the clearing and cleaning of the graves from a current 1 week to 2 weeks at least. That would be really nice during the November to March timeframe, which would allow us to decorate the graves of those that we care about and honor them and not have quite the, am I going to lose everything? A year ago, just after Martin Luther King Day, I went to retrieve my the wreath on my husband's grave and found that it had been taken off. We had used it the last couple of years and it had never been cleared before. I do understand that they have improved those policies, and it has made a big difference in how the cemetery looks. Regardless, the wreath wasn't so much of a disappointment to me. It's the loss of the wreath holder. And it was welded by one of my sons in honor of his father. It made me also think of all those others who were losing things that they had placed on their families' graves and the cost that was incurred to them. I appreciate once again that there is a regular schedule for clearing and cleaning the cemetery. And I did not want to lose my decorations again this year. So I called the sexton, who was very gracious and referred me to Dave Naylor, the time for the exact days on and make sure I had them off before they would be taken away. He was great and very kind. And just for the record, he did not know who I was. He only knew my first name. So he was, they cover they're very good, whether they know you or not. I expressed my frustration to him at trying to figure out the timing around the holidays and asked if a 2-week period would work for their perspective as caring for the headstones in the cemetery, especially as there was no lawn care needed and there was already an allowance for the November through March artificial flowers were allowed. During the summer, for those of you who may not know, artificial flowers are not allowed because of the hazard they cause to the equipment and to those people who are using the equipment at the cemetery. Mr. Naylor was very kind and listened, and he felt, as we talked, that 2 weeks would be a good compromise and suggested that I come to this meeting and make this public comment and make this request of the council. It is my request then that the cemetery extend the time for clearing the graves from the current 1 week time frame to at least 2 weeks during the November through March timeframe, so that it will allow things to be a little easier for families, especially during the holidays. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris McConaughey, West Jordan resident. First of all, I want to second everything she said. I agree with concern on a little more relaxation of the timing around cleanup for the cemetery. Item number 2, I'd also ask if the council would consider in upcoming meetings adding citizen comment to the work sessions that we have. I know there's a work session coming up in February, and I think this was tentatively slated to discuss that, but we won't be able to speak or engage during citizen comment. And it would be really nice from a resident perspective to be able to chime in on things that are going to be discussed before final action, before it comes to a formal council meeting for final action. So would really encourage you to add a citizen comment to that meeting. The third thing I wanted to bring up, Chief, let's see, is Chief Valentine still? There he is. Chief, if I know that you already know you have fantastic folks working for you. I know people sing praises to the officers all the time. Not as often does animal control get called out. I want to say thank you to Officer Morgan. We had one of our dogs unexpectedly pass away last week. We have 5 little boys, and they were just absolutely heartbroken. And when it came time to dispose of Milo's remains, we went to the animal control facility, and Officer Morgan was there to help with that. The boys all carried Milo out of the car into the facility. Very nice, very courteous, very professional, but also incredibly compassionate. We've heard Chief Valentine say, "You matter like I matter," repeatedly, and it does go through the ranks. She was
very understanding, asked if she could do paw prints for each one of our 5 little boys. Um, just a little thing. It's not something that seems to be advertised, but it's just that little act of caring and compassion that means a lot. We see this through all the departments. I want to say thank you to the mayor's staff, Chief Valentine, for your actions and the support of your officers, and council to you for supporting these policies that allow for compassion to be shown to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I think we have another citizen in your arms that wants to give comments too. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to participate in citizen comments? If not, then we'll move to those online. I have been made aware that there is one person online. Are there any others? We have 2. So, Mr. Anderson, you want to tell us which one to go first?
Yes, you have online, you have Missy Framo, Alexandria Framo is online.
Okay.
And then also Mr. Wilkinson and Mr. Pack.
Okay. So in order, is Alexandria Framo available and ready to give her comments? Okay.
I believe so.
Missy Framo, if you can hear me and you can speak, go ahead. Apparently you have to unmute yourself. *6. We're almost there. Okay, Alexandra, if you can hear me, we're going to hold off for just a minute and go to the other speakers, and then we'll come right back to you. So let's go with Mr. Wilkinson. Mr. Wilkinson, you should be online, and you can unmute yourself using *6, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Oh, great. So some months ago, I'd asked a question in one of these meetings, and I had asked whether West Jordan City had any liability, legal or otherwise, for dangerous known conditions in its community that it allowed to persist or even exacerbated. And I was told by the city attorney that I would get an answer to that question. I never got an answer to that question. The reason I asked that question back then is because I anticipated a certain finding from the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, which has indeed now been published. It concerns lead emissions near municipal airports. The data is unequivocal. If you deny this, then you deny science. The EPA is the best funded, largest, some would say most important environmental protection body on the planet. This is a multi-year study. It's based on data that goes back to the 1960s. Shocking, I know. Leaded fuel is dangerous and toxic, and it's making your children dumber. Irrefutable. And I know West Jordan's been aware of this. And despite these concerns, despite now what is called a public health and environmental crisis, so serious, in fact, that the federal government is taking action to shut down leaded aircraft fuel, or at least to diminish that problem and phase it out by 2030 or beginning in 2030. This is a critical thing. And the West Jordan City Council and the mayor are all pushing for more of these flights, more lead emissions over your community, up to 100 more hangar spaces with the expansion of the airport. This flies in the face of all rationale, practicality, scientific data, and the real kicker is here, you guys don't benefit from it. I've asked this question many times. By my records, you made about $16,000 off the airport in 2022. I'd love to see the 2023 numbers. So you're making your children dumber. You're making your population less healthy, and you're not benefiting from it. So anyone on the council, speak up tonight if you do not support the expansion of the airport and its existence in your community. If you don't say something, I'm going to have to assume that you support it. You support the poisoning of children in your community. Again, unequivocal scientific fact. And if you deny that, then you're a science denier. We have nothing left to discuss. So, so please speak up tonight if you can. Let me know your position on this. I need to know who's where and what's going on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. We will now go to the next online person. Mr. Anderson, what was the name?
Mr. Pack.
All right. Mr. Pack, I assume this is a former council member, David Pack. If you are online, go ahead and push your button and we'll listen to your comments. Okay, if you can hear me, Mr. Pack, we will come back to you. Let's try one more time to go to Alexandra Efremo. Ms. Efremo, if you are listening at this time, we are now going to switch back to you and try and hear your comments. Remember to push *6 and we will try that again. If you can hit *6 and then speak, we'll let you know that we can hear you. Hold on just a second. She's on mute. Okay. Are you there?
Hello? This is Alexandra
I can hear you now.
Efremo. Hello?
Go ahead.
Oh, you know, I was so disappointed in our council to go ahead and not acknowledge the 50 people that were there for the Copple Hills development. I have an incredible editorial. It said, "These people, they got it wrong. Somewhere along the way over the past 200 plus years, the politicians started thinking that once they were elected, they were the boss. Well, they got it wrong. They, the politicians, are the employees of the American people. We are their boss. They work for us, the American people. They answer to us, not the other way around. We pay their salaries, and they are expendable. The current administration somehow thinks that we want open borders, free handouts, vaccines, free healthcare, free education for all. Who told them they could call the shots? They took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution and the laws of the USA. No one gave them the right to change or interpret the laws to fit their own agendas. In the words of one of our founding forefathers, America belongs to we the people. It does not belong to Congress. It does not belong to special interest groups. It does not belong to the courts. It belongs to we the people. So let all the people remember John Ray's words. We the people are in control. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not for the Christians.
All right, thank you, Mr. Framo. That was the 3 minutes, and we do thank you for your comments. For those of us that have been on the council a few times or for a while, we do appreciate your comments when you call in, so thank you. It sounds like we do have David Pack ready to go. So David, if you want to push your button on your side, and I think you should be ready to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. Did the unmute work?
We can hear you.
Great, thank you. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks to our wonderful public works crew. After a winter that seemed like it was spring weather, we've been inundated with so much snow. And I think sometimes we can take for granted, I know I did before I got involved with the city and volunteering and public service, just having water when you turn on your faucet and having roads that you can drive on without major potholes, and right now having snow getting plowed. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our great employees, and also thank you to our new and returning city council members for braving the snow to get to the meeting, and wish everyone the best, new and returning council members collaborating and working well together. And since Mr. McConaughey mentioned the citizen comment idea, I thought I'd reiterate my endorsement of his comment of having citizen comment even during the work sessions for city council, because I'm a big advocate of soliciting and receiving diverse points of view, trying to collaborate that way prior to the discussion getting down the road too far. Seems like that would save time and money and help with the initial direction. And really, that's all. Just wanted to say thanks to council members and to city staff and to all our great employees for working together during this weather. So best wishes for a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there any others online, Dallin?
No, there are no other hands raised.
Okay. At this time, we will close public comments. And I didn't have a timestamp, but we do want to recognize our new council member, Bador, is now with us on the stand after braving I-15 and Redwood Road.
You would think that someone who gave weather for a living for a little while would have planned that a lot better. So I apologize to the people, and I'll check someone else's forecast from now on.
All right. Thank you. We're glad you're here with us. So this time, do we have Nell in the room? Okay. Yeah, I did close it. Do we have to vote to open it up again, or?
You can just get a consensus of the council if they want to continue public comment.
Is the council okay if Mr. Bennett gives a public comment? Okay, Rob, we invite you to come up and give a public comment.
And then I will waste your time no longer. I just had an idea as I was driving over here today that I don't know if this idea has been explored, but I know that there are other cities and other entities, government and otherwise, that have a text-based cell phone service that people and citizens can sign up for that allow for the city, in this case is what I'm advocating for, to be able to, on their own volition, sign up and add their cell phone number to receive email or cell phone updates when there are severe weather events, something that's going to impact a meeting that's going to be held, that's scheduled, that maybe is not going to be able to be held, other things that are of import to the community that can be sent out on a broadband basis that people can choose to sign up for if they want to. I don't know if that's been explored before by IT, but if that's something that could be looked into, if that's something that the council and the mayor's office might be interested in, that's a service that I think would be appreciated by the citizens, to be able to get that type of information forwarded to their cell phones whenever there's something that's coming along that might be important for them to know about. So that was just an idea that I had. I hope that there's some benefit to that, and I appreciate you letting me speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, any others before I close again? Okay, we're good. All right, so I'll close the public comments. And with all of the council members now present in the meeting, We'll move back to council business. A resolution 24001 certifying the 2024 election results for council chair and vice chair. And I will turn the time over to Mr. Anderson at this time.
Thank you. Council, typically the first meeting of the year is when the council will elect a chair and vice chair for the year for 2024. This past year in 2023, we were led by Council Chair McConaughey and Council Vice Chair Bloom. And so it's outlined in city code how this process is to be, how it's to occur. And I've got Mr. Hallmark who's going to help us with that. But basically, according to code, which is found in West Jordan City Code 169, all of you are eligible to participate. And item C, all council members present at the meeting and present in another section of code includes those that are participating electronically. So all 7 of you are eligible to be candidates for council chair or vice chair. Council member may only serve as council chair for 2 consecutive years, and then they have to have a break. There's no term limits for serving as council vice chair, and election to vice chair does not mandate succession to the council chair. So what we will do in part D is ask all council members present at the same time to declare if they choose to be considered for the position of council chair. So by show of hands, who wants to be considered for council chair? I have council member Jacob and council member Green. So with that, state the declarations are closed and restate the names. So the declarations are now closed, and Councilmember Jacob, Councilmember Green, you are candidates for council chair. Are there any that of the candidates that desire to withdraw? Seeing none, those are the 2. So now we will do an election, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hallmark.
Can we talk before we go to the election?
In the meantime, you all should have got a link to your phone for that Slido. That's where we'll hold the vote. It shouldn't ask for your information. It shouldn't make you fill anything in. Once you get there, it should just be a blank screen right now because we haven't started the election yet.
You sent a text?
It says type your question.
Yes.
Okay, no, that I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's the blank screen, but
That's not a blank screen.
I didn't get a text.
Okay, we'll resend the text. In the meantime, you can. There's nothing to prohibit you from not discussing the merits of candidates for chair.
I'm not sure how this works, but I guess as acting chair, I turn the time over to Councilmember Whitelock for some discussion.
Thank you. So I put a lot of time and looked at what we have in code and what's in state code and considering what I'm looking for in a chair. I need someone who will be present as often as possible without other assignments, either involving the council or their personal life obligations. I need someone that will send out weekly or bi-weekly emails, keeping the council informed when they meet with staff and the mayor's staff. I need a chair that will be willing to and commit to giving Alan a yearly review and getting input from all council members that wish to contribute in that. Prior to asking the council office director to do any additional assignments, I ask that you reach out to the council to see if you have 4 or more that agree with the ask. My belief is this position needs someone with the time to dedicate to it, and the position is to help the council run smoothly. For me, it's not a position of power, but a position of contribution. So I would love to hear from the ones that have put their names in, if they feel they can do that, and if they feel they don't have other assignments that will interfere with being here to do the meetings. So I'd love to hear a little bit of why they want to be chair. And I think even though oftentimes chatter goes on behind, I think the public deserves to hear something and not go straight to a vote. So that would be my ask.
All right, so before we hear from the candidates, I have Councilmember Bador that would like to make a comment.
Thank you. Just as a statement, as we get ready for this, I need to, first of all, I echo a lot of what Councilmember Whitelock says with this. As we were coming into this and getting ready to take on our new term, all I was told was this getting of the council chair is like the Hatfields and McCoys. You're going to have a lot of hurt feelings. You're going to have a lot of ill will that goes on towards this. And I question, we have to do this for a state, but why is it this way? Why are we making it so much? And it's because this council seat must have some sort of power in the minds of the people going for it. So I want to echo the thing that we need to make sure that this is not the case. I would actually, and I've worked with Councilmember Shelton, we're going to be hoping to put on our work agenda that we look at this a little bit more, that maybe this isn't something that is a high school popularity contest that we're going for here. We're adults. We're 7 equal people. I personally don't like the idea that anyone has any sense that this position holds any power, which would mean that they are above the other 6 people. And I would like to make sure that as we go into this new year and into this new council, that we keep that in mind, that we are 7 strong, not 6 being led. We're not the Avengers with Tony Stark above us. We are 7 members who are all equal in what we do. I want to keep that going. And I would love to see us get on something closer to what Sandy has, which is a rotating every 6 months council. So some things I'd like to talk about, talk in work sessions with that. But again, my vote will be set tonight, but I do want to make sure that this is something that this chair position is not something who sets their own agenda, who does what they want to do, that it becomes something that still needs a majority vote to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Budor. Any others that would like to speak before? Okay, I'm not going to go by preference of order, but Zach, sorry, I've got to use this again. Councilmember Jacob, would you like to go first?
Sure.
You don't have to say anything, or you could. It's up to you.
I almost want to have the question repeated a little bit, but just, I don't think this is a, I don't know, anything all that, I don't know, powerful. I think that's a funny word. When I got elected to the city council, somebody said, "Oh, you're just in it for the power," and I said, "You should try city council and see how much power that really gives you." It's boy, it's a trip. You get recognized everywhere you go until you leave your house, and then not so much. So as far as other assignments, yes, I serve on the Jordan Valley Water Board. Once in a blue moon, I have been late to this meeting because of that meeting. Obviously, as chair, I would just make my departure from that meeting earlier if necessary. I don't see that happening very often. It doesn't happen very often. Their meetings rarely go past 5 o'clock, 5:30. And they're 4 blocks away. So I make it here with little problem. I made it here today from that meeting in a storm. And I was early. So there's that. Personal life, time to do it. Yes, I have time to do this. I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Yeah, I would like each of them to answer if they're willing to do Alan's review. That's really important to me.
Okay. I'm not sure that's something we need to discuss right now, but if well, Councilmember Jacob said he would.
Yes.
So Councilmember Green, your turn.
Thank you. I have no conflicts with any meetings outside of this that would cause me to be late or otherwise miss this meeting, whether it's an assignment with the council or otherwise. I think my attendance record here at council meeting will speak for itself. Very few meetings have I ever missed. I think in the last, with the exception of COVID, I have not missed a meeting, and I only have done it would be outside the COVID parameters. I've only done one by Zoom. So I think that speaks for itself. yes, I do want to make sure that I work closely with the council office, that we get agendas done and we get the agendas done early, so that we have better time, so that we all have time to look at the agendas. I want to make sure we have uh, good communication, and that we make sure that our communications are across the board. And yes, I'm committed to making sure that Alan has a evaluation, and you'll know my commitment on that, because when we talk about Title I changes, that was one of the ones that I think was missed in Title I. So yes, I am committed to that. So thank you.
All right. So we'll turn time back over to Mr. Anderson, and I think all of us are linked up on our phones now. So you want to give us some direction on what the next steps are?
Yep. Is everyone linked up? Okay. Everyone except Councilmember Whitelock.
I had to copy the text. I couldn't link it, so there was something weird.
Are you on now?
Well, no one spoke up in defense of themselves, so I have to assume now you support the poisoning of children. This is absolutely not.
Somebody unmuted.
I'm getting.
Anyone listening to this, if you have kids, I'd wager some of your own kids are dumber than they should have been. These are my life.
All right. So the goal will have a result of 7, and obviously 4 would be sufficient to be elected chair.
Okay, so that first poll is open. You will not see the results up on the screen until all 7 have submitted. So the little number up in the top right corner, once that says 7, that tells us that everyone has voted, and then we will share the results.
Pamela, are you online and voting?
Click over on the polls. Somebody typed it into the Q&A. Just click over to the polls part and you'll have a multiple choice. It's not, it's not a fill in the blank.
There you go.
Okay, there we go.
I demand a recount. Just kidding.
Okay. So with the results, I show Zach Jacob, Councilmember Jacob at 57%, and Councilmember Green at 43%. So at this time, what is our next step, Mr. Anderson, to solidify that we have a new chair, and what's our next step?
The next step is to repeat this process for the vice chair.
All right. Do we do that with the new council chair moving over or before?
No, we'll just do it all as one process. And then
Okay.
when we make the resolution, which makes it official, that's just the vote.
Okay.
So now the next question in the code, let me jump back over to it. So now we just repeat this process for the vice chair. So once the council chair is elected, it does say the newly elected council chair may immediately act as council chair, but I think it would be best to wait till after the resolution is adopted. The election of council vice chair shall be immediately held using the same process described above. Other than the council chair shall not be eligible to be a candidate for vice chair. So repeating that same process, are there any council members present, including Ms. Bloom that's online, who desire to be nominated for vice chair? So I have
I raise my hand.
I have Ms. Bloom, Councilmember Lamb, and Councilmember Green.
Link will be in that same link that you should have open. I'll open it here momentarily.
Did the council want to ask the vice chair candidates any questions? Okay.
Are we good to go ahead and vote? Okay.
Yeah, if you can see it, you can go ahead and vote. And same thing, once we get that little 7 up in the top corner, we will show the results.
I see 6. Oh, there's 7. Okay, per the results of this, we have Councilmember Lamb at 57%, Councilmember Green at 29%, and Councilmember Bloom at 14%. So that puts Councilmember Lamb, me, as the vice chair, according to this poll.
The next course of action would then be to adopt the resolution placing Councilmember Jacob as chair and Councilmember Lamb as vice chair.
I'll move to approve resolution number 24-001, certifying the 2024 election results for council chair and vice chair with Councilmember Jacob as chair and Councilmember Lamb as vice chair.
I'll second. Okay, sorry. Like, what's the next step? Any discussion to that's why I didn't go for chair, by the way. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Bador,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitelock,
Yeah.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Acting Chair Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom. Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Thank you. I show that motion passes 7-0.
Okay, this time as acting chair for the moments. I feel like I've done this before, like a few years ago. And I turned it over to someone else as well for about 4 years ago. At this time, I will ask, because I would really like it, if new chair Jacob would like to move over or stay over there.
How about I'll move for a 5-minute recess so we can shuffle around and then we can reconvene. How's that?
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Hello?
Those 8 people.
Let's go 10-second warning, 15-second warning, something like that.
Hey, Cindy.
All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order here at what are we, 6:50? I think it was a little more than 5 minutes, but and we are on item 5, reports. The council starts city council reports. Anybody have anything to report from your extracurricular activities? Let's go, Councilmember Whitelock.
Went to LPC on Monday. Some things to be aware of. One is we talked about whatever the acronym they're going to use. I don't think it's going to be LID, but it's kind of like our PID. And the ULCT looked at how many of those have already been utilized or on the process, and there were around 90. So I don't know what problem they're trying to fix because it's already there, but they're looking at doing something more with that. I don't know if you heard the governor's speech that kind of changing. And so his is about affordable home ownership now. Some of the things that they're batting around are basically how to pay for that, who to pay for that. And so that's something for us to just kind of be aware of so that we can be looking at when they come knocking at our door to say, you should be paying for their down payments. Because that is probably what's coming, is something to that effect. And looking at, there's a lot of dialogue. Well, what is affordable? What is that definition, and all of those things that they're going to be looking at. The next meeting is this coming Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday for Local Officials Day. Alan sent out a thing. If you haven't already talked to him and you wanted to go, make sure you talk to him today. Our youth council is going. They're excited, I think. From my observations in other years, the youth seem to have a great time, and it's a great learning thing. The governor should be coming to speak to us at Local Officials Day. The ask of the league currently is that if you have not already or do not already know who your personal elected officials are on the Hill, that you find that out, get their numbers, call them, talk to them. Because there will be times when the league asks us to reach out on specific issues. So it's always better if you have a little bit of a relationship first. If you have questions about how to do that, I can probably help you. I think that was it. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you. What did I do yesterday? Oh, I knew I did something. Yesterday was the first Association of Municipal Council meeting that we attend every year. Diane Turner from Murray was elected as chair, or volunteered as chair, however that process worked. Ellen Burrell from Cottonwood Heights is the vice chair. The meetings from here on out will be held at the newly built, cost more than our city hall remodel, by the way, newly built Murray City Hall. And we talked about a bunch of topics that we'll discuss over the next year, and looking, and so that's really what happened. So if anybody's interested in more information about AMC, the topic, I think Vanessa Nelson with the county was assembling the topics, and we'll go month by month. So that was it.
Thank you, Councilmember Shelton.
Thank you, Chair. I was at Copper Hills High School today and just inadvertently ran into Sergeant Hercules and Officer Carbine from our police department. And they were out doing recruitment for the, let's have it written down here. The cadet. They're out doing recruitment for the cadet program. And they're hoping to get 16, 17-year-old kids interested in future employment as police officers. And they were just really excited. They were wanted to thank the city council for funding that program last year and asked me to pass that on. And I told them I would. I thought it was exciting to see it. And they had two young men do a push-up contest for a pair of sunglasses while I was there. I thought it was a lot of fun. So also the oath of office ceremony was just an amazing success. And I just wanted to thank everyone involved with the planning and the execution of that event. Thank you.
That did go well. Thank you. And I'll just chime in really quick. As I mentioned, I was at the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District before coming here tonight, and We just had some preliminary glances at what they're thinking budget wise. So just put this in the back of your head. They're looking at between 4.5% and 6% for water rate increases. Last year I think was 5. So yeah, so that's what they're looking at. Hopefully not doing a property tax increase this year. Is what the current operating assumptions are for the budget. So just some things to keep in mind as that goes forward and we start looking at our budget, especially the water fund. Throwing that out there. So that is all I have for that. We'll go to the council office report. Mr. Alan Anderson.
Thank you, Council. As already mentioned, this coming Wednesday, a week from today, is the Local Officials Day at the Utah Legislature. The legislature starts on Tuesday, their 45-day legislative session. The Youth Council, the West Jordan Youth Council, will be going. Their programming is in the morning beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning for the Youth Council. At about 10:30, they will travel to the Salt Palace, which is where the elected officials, where each of you would generally go. And there will be a legislative preview in room 253. And then the check-ins open at the same time. They do have a luncheon in the ballroom that you can attend. I've got 5 of you right now. I think Councilmember Bador and Councilmember Shelton, I still need to chat with you if you're interested in going to that lunch event at the Salt Palace. It's a really beneficial time to be able to engage with members of the ULCT, that's Utah League of Cities and Towns. They help us, all cities at the legislature, to make sure that, local rights and local control of what our community wants is apparent. You'll also be able to mingle with some of our elected officials. There's a number of senators and representatives that represent West Jordan, and it's really nice to be able to put a name to a face. Again, that's next Wednesday during the lunch hour, so appreciate that. I am working with facilities and administration to, as everything starts moving back into City Hall, and there'll be more information to you with that as this process unfolds. And I think that's all I've got. It's been a busy month. We are very appreciative of the feedback we did receive at the oath of office ceremony. Appreciate all of your support of that. I thought it went well for the first one. That was a special council meeting, and it was nice to see we figured about a little over 200 people in attendance. And we appreciate the Viridian and our staff that helped put that together. And the city recorder, Tangi, did an amazing job with the food and the setup and interfacing with Viridian. So it worked out very well. And we appreciate the Viridian staff too. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Let's go mayor's report.
Thank you, Council Chair Jacob. Go ahead. I'm ready, Warren.
Go ahead.
Oh, no picture for this one? Oh, okay. Sorry, I should have sent it over to you. Anyway, the Hope Lutheran Church, which is right on 90th South, they have a new pastor that just came here from Florida. He's enjoying the fantastic weather out here. And so he came out and met with me and invited me to one of his services, which I attended last Sunday, or 2 Sundays ago, actually. So his name is Adam, and you can tell me how to say his last name whenever you want, but I think Adam's a good name for a pastor. Okay. Also, last week was the first Friday, or last Friday was the first Friday of January, and it was a great concert there. We had a lot of fun, and we had some activities ahead of that as well. Sorry, I don't have a picture on that one. I'm not really good at taking pictures. I'm trying to get better. But anyway, our next First Friday will be on Groundhog Day. Our next First Friday will be on Groundhog Day. So our next First Friday will be on Groundhog Day. It will be a Valentine theme, however, even though it'll be on there. It will be Changing Lanes. They do a classic Midtown hits, and the city ahead of time will have an activity doing bingo for their pre-show. The bingo starts at 6:30 and goes to 7:30. You can come anytime in there and just fill in, and then the concert begins at 7:30. today and yesterday I had the opportunity to attend in two different schools their graduations. Yesterday was Riverside and today was Hayden Peak. And if you look at the picture up there, you see that tall, handsome officer there. That's Josh Whitehead. He's the new DARE officer over at Hayden Peak Elementary. And the kids love him. And we're fortunate in our city, so thank you, Council, for continuing to fund this. For a little while, West Jordan stopped doing that. And several years ago, we started again. And it is well received, and it is a good, well investment that we do with our fifth graders. Okay, next Monday, our city offices are closed because that is Martin Luther King Day. So all offices are closed, and our phones will go to voicemail, unless of course you call 911. Okay, Christmas tree drops offs. If you had a live Christmas tree and you want to figure out what to do with it, just put it out like you do your regular trash, and it'll get picked up on normal trash day. Now, if you happen to have a super large tree, it's difficult for them to pick that up, so just cut it in half. If it's 10 feet or longer, we ask you cut it shorter. And mine already got picked up last Friday, so it works very well. If you want to haul it over to one of the other drop-off locations, contact the webpage and they'll find out where that is. Otherwise, they'll come pick it up from you. And that's the end of my report, unless you have some other questions.
Any questions for the mayor? All right, city administrator.
There was one other item.
Oh, there was one other item.
I didn't write it down, sorry. So as you see, it's snowing. And a couple of meetings ago, I mentioned that we have that our GPS is on our trucks. So we know where the trucks are. Last year, we started to roll that out, but we made some adjustments to it this year so we can have additional information such as plowing and salting and things like that. That information we're not putting out to the public. We're keeping that in-house just for our own uses in there. But the snow plows, streets being plowed, that is available to the public, and that link is available on our website. So if the public has questions like what streets have been plowed, how many have you done, or what's your progress, whatever it is, you can give them that link, or you could look up at the link and just describe it to them yourself, whichever you choose to do. So that is available. And there was another thing that was in my mind, and I just left it now. So when that comes back, I'll bring that up to you too. But anyway, that'll give you the scoop on the snowplow.
The scoop. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have Greg Davenport. I'd like to give an update to you about the wastewater project on 7800 South. While he is coming up, I want to give you a quick update about what's happening with City Hall. The progress in the City Hall remodel is ongoing. IT will start moving into the building next week. If you go over there right now, well, not right now. If you go over there tomorrow, it's a beehive of activities. There's a dozen people working on the wood and trim millwork. We are pushing very hard to finish things up over the next 2 weeks and are making quite a bit of progress. City staff will start moving in as soon as we get a certificate of occupancy, which we're hoping for in about 2.5 weeks. So we're making good progress. We're about a week behind where we thought we would be at this time, but still moving forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that project if you like.
The employee health clinic, is it still opening when it was advertised, or where's that at?
Yeah, right now our first appointments at the Employee Health Center will be on February 5th. We still think that's a doable date, and we're planning on it. Thank you. Good question.
Any other questions other than a week behind schedule? Never mind. Just leave that one there. Go ahead, Greg.
I'm here to give an update on the 7800 South Sewer Project. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that project, that is a master plan project. We are changing a 15-inch pipe that's existing from 5600 West all the way to Copper Rim Drive, which is just east of the Mountain View corridor. We're replacing that 15-inch pipe with a 21-inch pipe, and that will add capacity to our system that will help us to develop the west side of our city a little bit better. The city has hired Condi Construction to do that work, and the project cost is about $2.4 million. It's right in that neighborhood. We had a pre-con with the contractor on January 9th. And at that time, he said that his anticipated start date would be around February 4th of 2022. And he thought he would finish with all the work by July of 2024. Sorry. I don't know why I did. February 4th, 2024 is when he's going to start. The reason why he's not starting now is because he has an order of manholes that he has to receive. And there's a backlog of that item. And so they've been waiting for those. He anticipates that there'll be 3 to 4 months of construction on the sewer line, and then there'll be another month just to put the road back together and to do concrete. To give you a little bit more information on the traffic control for that area, in case you get asked, before work start, message boards will be placed on the roadway to let the public know that we are starting construction. During construction, there will be lane restrictions that go from 56 West all the way until you almost reach that east side of Mountain View corridor. We will always, on 78th, we will always keep one lane open in each direction through that project. The streets that crossed 78, though, as we cross those streets or that intersect with 78s, there will be closures as the work take place in front of those streets. So say in front of the roundabout for Smiths, if the intersection street there will have to be closed while we keep 78th open and we cross that street. We will put some special restrictions on that street during construction. Semis will not, and large trucks will not be allowed on that section from 56 to Mountain View corridor. We're doing that because to keep, they'll have to go through the roundabout, and at times we'll have to put traffic on one side of the roundabout or the other. In doing that, if a big truck or semi went through, we would have accidents. So our traffic engineer has been alerting the businesses in that area, the contractors and the local businesses, to let them know that they'll need to find alternate routes, and they're helping them to find alternate routes for that, in case you wondered. There will be one nighttime shutdown of 5600 West when we do the pump around for that project. And I've been told that no traffic control will go during the whole project. Traffic control should not go into the lanes of Mountain View corridor or the right turn lane to get onto Mountain View corridor. So that should be fully open for the full length of the project. Any questions? Besides that it won't start in 2022?
Just make sure everybody knows this is the precursor to the widening of the road.
That's correct. The only reason we're doing this, right, is because the road is going to be widened. I'm pretty sure in 2024 that there'll be construction starting on that. My project is so that when they do that, it'll be easier, and then we won't interrupt that road and recut it at a later date. So we're trying to do our work in advance of that. Thanks, Zach.
Councilmember Green.
Is this going down on the south side of the road?
It's going right down the middle of the road.
Right down the middle.
Right down the very middle of that road.
Okay,
and right through the middle of the roundabout. So,
because why wouldn't you? I mean, can we?
right?
Hey, while you're
goes.
ripping up that roundabout, can you just rip up the whole?
Can you just not put it back?
It's going to cost me a lot to put it back. I'll tell you that.
Councilmember Shelton.
I'm wondering, will further expansion of that line be required further west at some point?
Excuse me?
Will there be required expansion of the line further west at some point?
Right. It really depends on the zoning that you guys approve. I'm hopeful that there's not. I'm hopeful that this is the last time I have to do sewer on 7800 South. Never say never, though, because I don't know what developers are going to come with for you for other bigger projects. So that's really going to depend on what you guys do in zoning for that.
Councilmember Green. So I'm going to follow this up. What size pipe are we putting in?
A 21 inch.
Okay.
It's 21 inch right now from 56 West all the way down to at least 48th West. So I'm matching the biggest size pipe that I have downstream and bringing it up as far as I can. We have I believe a 15 or an 18 that connects from the Copper Rim area that goes all the way up into the woods. And that's what this will support that. And it will also support development along 7800 South.
And when you say woods, you don't mean the forest, you mean the
Woods Ranch
development.
Correct. Woods Ranch development.
Yeah.
Yes. For our portion that we're going to serve. Any other questions?
Just cannot wait to see 78th dug up.
I cannot wait to see all those lanes going all the way to.
I'm excited for the emails that are to come.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Anything else from the administration?
Nothing else from me. I think the mayor remembered the one thing you've forgotten.
Mayor Burton.
I did. You may or may not be aware, but Papa Pita's was bought out by Flowers. And today I had the opportunity to meet with Flowers over there. Papa Pita is a great success story that started at a garage and ended up being this great big bakery that we have on the west side of our city, which is very successful and feeds basically the United States. Now with Flowers owning that, they are still using that as Papa Pita did. And they are actually taking those lines and expanding it to other places where they already had the market. So the production at that location has increased. And they expect that to continue to increase. And they know that building won't continue to handle that. So they are looking to expand in the future. And they said very near future, going a little bit further to the west to handle additional commodities that they do. So Flowers was a company that started back in 1919 and actually started out by selling ice cream. And now their bakeries are all across the United States. And they are the second largest bakery manufacturer in the United States today. So
as long as they keep baking and my neighborhood smells good, I'm happy. Councilmember Lamb.
Mayor, with Papa Pita's and Flowers making that change, is there room to expand at the current location, or are they need to expand in another part of West Jordan?
Well, Papa Pita was planning to expand before they sold. And so they purchased the property to the west.
Okay.
So they already have the property for the expansion.
Thank you.
Papa Pita was planning on it, so they purchased property perchance.
Correct.
Perhaps. Okay. All right.
Now let's see, you say that fast 3 times.
Right. All right. Finishing with reports. Next item on the agenda is item 6A, is Title I revisions. And we're going to Mr. Anderson to kick us off.
Thank you. In bringing this tonight, it does not have to be approved tonight, just kind of seeking council direction, but we've also got Mr. Chandler from the attorney's office and also Mr. Boyce from the attorney's office who assisted in drafting this. I will say that we began this process probably 3 or 4 months ago, specifically in Title I, Chapter 6. Working with administrative services, we added a few amendments into Chapter 4, and then we found that the city had made some changes when we added public utilities and public service departments that were not reflected in Chapter 8. And I've got to remember 9 and 15, but the RCA kind of explains some of the changes. Pages 1 through 7 deal with Chapter 4 and 6. And then we jump all the way to page 23 of the red line, which goes into what the changes in Chapter 9 and Chapter 15. And so I don't know if you have any specific questions on that, or you want me to go through why those changes were made. Just we're here to answer questions if council has questions of why these edits are placed.
Does anybody have any questions for Alan, or have a way that you'd like to see this proceed? Councilmember Green.
Couple of things. You all saw my email this last week with a document that had some questions and some issues that I think we need to work through. I talked with city attorney tonight. There's a couple of them that don't need to be addressed. Or if we do address, it's a very simple line of code. But so that I don't have to spend 35 minutes going through the 20 things on my list, I would ask without objection that document be allowed to be submitted to the record. I
do have a comment on it. before we do that. But did you want to, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
The other thing is there's just a couple of things. I think we're looking at 4 chapters of code, and I think there's some ways that we can simplify it. For example, we have 6 job descriptions, and they all say I have a paragraph about 4 or 5 lines that say other duties is assigned, and it's like, well, we could just put those in one spot and not be repetitive. And I think there's some wording that we can eliminate to make things clearer. So what I would like to do is refer this either to an ad hoc committee of the council, or refer it to staff and have some council members work with staff to just make sure that if we're cleaning up that much code, let's just eliminate some of the language and clean it up and make sure that we're doing what we want to do.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Council Member Lamb.
Thank you, Council Chair. I did have the opportunity to look through this probably Friday and Saturday, and Councilmember Green, I did want, I did look at your notes as well. The thing I don't want to do is bring this back to a workshop. I think between what you have already given and I've heard from a few others about things we can change, I think it's something that we can just submit to the staff and have them revise and then bring back to us. I don't know that we need to approve this tonight. It's not a immediate approval. It needs to be done, but I just don't want to see this come back to a workshop because I don't think it's something that we have more important things to do than to fix this in a workshop.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Well, I respectfully disagree. Our main job is code, and this is code. And when I was first on the council, we were working on change of form of government, and I kept getting told, no, just look at this. We're just looking at the change in form of government. That's all we're looking at here. We can address the rest of the code later. But what I'm being asked to vote on is a code that's written in a way that I don't support. So if this just goes back and comes with a few new ideas, we haven't done our job, in my opinion. We haven't discussed any of the things. I've got 3 pages of things as I reviewed the code that I think need to be discussed. One of them, lines 117 through 119. It says the council chair shall receive all communications from city administration and others addressed to this council as a whole, and shall have the responsibility to see that all such communication are conveyed to other members of the council. I feel that would be better done by the council office director. There's several things in here that I think we should maybe look at changing. So I don't know if you want me to go through them, Chair, or what you want to do, but I definitely think this needs to go to a work meeting where we can have dialogue and not, I hate just having things brought to the dais and people wordsmithing on the dais and then just telling staff, well, just take it and bring it back to us and we'll vote it up or down. I don't believe that's my job. And I will have to vote no if we can't work on things that each member might have an area of this code that they want to find out how the rest of the body feels. So I'll be interested to see where this goes.
Okay, thank you. The thing I wanted to mention about the email, and I wanted to do this in a public hearing and a public meeting because that's when we're supposed to talk about what's on the agenda, right? The thing I want to mention is that, and I'm going to try and be delicate, but when one council member, any council member, puts forth a good amount of effort and comment into an agenda item and puts that out in email in advance, we can't really respond to it through the email because that starts a debate. That starts, then you're treading on public meeting issues and things like that, which gives whoever writes the first email kind of an open floor, and they get a say that maybe another doesn't get in this. I may be wrong, but that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Most of the comments were not bad comments. Most of them were good opinions, good thoughts, whatever it might be. I always like simplifying and deleting things where we can. But that said, I think a public meeting is the place to have the debate and to have the discussion. We can do that in this meeting. We can have the discussion. We can talk about this. If it takes half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, we've all been here late before. It's on the agenda right now. I'm perfectly willing to entertain anybody's comments or suggestions or whatever. But that's just my thought on emailed comments, just in general, putting forth comments in advance of a meeting. That's my only concern. Councilmember Green.
Let me address that. One, we've heard from multiple times, staff doesn't want to be blindsided in a meeting, and I see the mayor's head nod. So I think I'm fairly close in saying that what staff doesn't want to hear is just going through this stuff and not have an opportunity to look at it and be ready for it. Two, and I don't want to make this personal, but we've had previous meetings where I've been going through detailed oriented stuff like that. And you're the one that said, can you shut up? It was nicer than that, but can you shut up and move on? Because we don't need to spend all night going through all of those things. So in deference to the council's time, I'm trying to say, look, I spent a lot of time on this. So did Councilmember Whitelock. Obviously, she's got 3 pages of comments too. We can sit here and we can go through all of those, or we can say there's enough of an issue. We can refer this to and that was my point. It wasn't to generate debate. It was, here's my opinion. And I'm giving you opinion so I don't have to speak for 20, 25 minutes, break Robert's rules of order and go over the 10, whatever. That's what I was attempting to do. If that's not what you want me to do, I won't do it. And I won't put this out and we can sit and we can go through every item in the meeting and talk line by line, or we can take it offline and put it into a committee. We can put it with a work session. We can do something. I'm at wit's end because it's right now it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, is there anybody want to make a motion on how to proceed?
I'm going to move. Do you want to make?
Discuss with the mics on.
I would prefer that this go to a work meeting. My experience in the past is that we have committee meetings, then it comes to the body and the body says no. And so we've wasted time. We've wasted time. And it is our job to do the people's work. And the code is really important to our city. And when we drag these meetings on that are the business meetings, we lose our residents. We lose the citizen participation because they don't want to sit through and listen to every line of code that we have an issue with. They want us to do their work. And not all of them. Some of them like work meetings. And actually, the reality of most elected bodies have work meetings, and that's where you learn the most, is if you attend their work meetings. We are the 3rd largest city. We need to have work meetings. We have those scheduled. I respectfully ask that this comes to a work meeting. So I therefore move that ordinance number 24-04 be moved back to a work meeting so that the body can work on it together.
Was that a second, Councilmember Bloom?
Yes, second.
It didn't
Okay.
sound like a second.
It was sounded something like a second. So I'm willing to let it go. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Councilmember Whitelock to refer to the committee of the whole. Councilmember Bloom with the second. Discussion to that motion. Anybody? Councilmember Green.
I'm good with it.
Anybody else? the procedural motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Say no usually, but that's okay.
Aye.
All right. Do we have to do a roll call, or do we just have to identify?
Miss
the
Bloom
votes?
is remote, which requires a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Whitelock,
Resounding yes.
Vice Chair Lamb,
No.
Councilmember Bador,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Chair Jacob.
I was going to add an adverb, but I'll just say yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
I show that motion passes 6-1.
All right. Without further discussion on that one, we'll go to item 6B. This is discussion and selection of council members for external boards and subcommittee assignments. We're going to turn this one to Mr. Anderson as well and see how this goes.
I'm beginning to feel like Miss Steck during budget season.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, so the external boards and committees, every year, there's various entities that hold meetings. You've heard Councilmember Green talk about the Association of Municipal Councils. You've heard Councilmember Whitelock talk about LPC. There have been times where you've heard Council Chair Jacob talk about Chamber West. And others. So this is kind of where we choose those. There are time commitments. I realize each of you have different responsibilities in your careers and with your families. And so I've kind of put the times and dates up there. There's also some empty spots there you'll see with the alternate with the LPC and the Salt Lake Council of Governments. And that is just for one mayor. And for example, on the COG, it's acronym, it's for mayor and one council member in first class cities, which we are. So this one, what we want to do, what we've done previously is just kind of go down the list. In your packet, you can see who served on those committees in 2023. These are external committees outside of the city. They have their own bylaws. The bylaws are not overseen by the council, so you would follow their bylaws and their rules that they have in their meetings, their terms of service type of thing. So the first one is the Utah League of Cities and Town Legislative Policy Committee. They meet typically the second Monday from noon to 1:30. But during the session, which starts Tuesday, they will meet every week. And this is the mayor, senior staff, and one council member. The council member would,
We
yes.
get two council members.
I was going to say, we have two
Well-
council members because the mayor's on the board.
That is correct. So
good.
as,
Okay.
as
Well,
I'm
we
on the
get
board,
two-
you can have one more council
We
member
get
on
two
it now.
spots. They don't have to be
Okay.
council members, right? But we get two.
It's not required to be a council member, but we do have an extra opening now because mine does not count.
Okay. Is there anywhere spelled out on that one, where, who makes that appointment? Does it have to be the council? Does it come, you know what I mean? Like the senior staff, for example, is not, the council's not appointing your senior staff member to go. Right?
Right.
You're allowing a council member to pick a person to go. Is that right? Or how does that, who's
So
making that call?
it's undefined with Utah League of Cities and Towns. And I'm willing, if there's a council member that's willing to fill that, and we have two council members, I'm okay with that. If only one council member wants to do that, I will find another staff to fill the other position. So
Gotcha.
I'll open it to you first.
Perfect.
So I would ask if there's two, we'll fill in the alternate. Luckily, it's just a shade and not blacked out.
Well, and it's not alternate in this case. It's two primaries.
Two primaries, correct. So is there an interest of anyone who can participate with the Legislative Policy Committee with the time commitment shown on the screen?
I would be interested.
I would be interested as well.
Okay, we have four.
Who were the? I saw Chad and I saw me and I didn't look down. Okay. Kent and Bob. Everybody.
Oh, Bob, everybody. Okay. So I don't know. How do you?
How many sided of a coin do we have?
And Miss Bloom, I didn't hear from Miss Bloom. I don't know if she's the current one. This is according to last
He's
year's.
the current number 2, yeah, and Councilmember, I think Whitelock is the other one.
I will bow out as I'm serving as vice and let you three decide if you want to.
All right.
I'll bow out as well. I'm, as being a newbie, I'll take leftovers, and I've got no problems with that.
Well, you're welcome to stay in. Okay, that would leave two. Me and Councilmember Shelton. I think. Was there?
Is that right?
Is that right? Any?
I would have liked to have done it, but if you really want to do that with the water board and with the chair, go for it.
Nothing but time. All right. Any further discussion to that? All right. Oh, look at this. It's going up.
Okay,
and let's go COG.
Salt Lake COG. This one meets every other, or not really every other, it looks quarterly. It appears, or a little more than quarterly. January, May, August, November, typically the third Thursday at lunchtime. And it's for the mayor and one council member in first class cities. So is there someone who would like to participate on the Salt Lake County Council of Government?
Yeah,
Okay,
Councilmember
Councilmember
Bador. I will say I've done this one before, and I really enjoy it. We have had poor participation from the council attending these before. I think the COG does kind of a could be better job in letting us know, like reminding us of when the meetings are. So just make sure you get it on your calendar. When are you going to do it?
Vanessa Nelson's in charge now, and she's staying on top of it
She
like
better.
she does AMC.
When I was on it, I was always, about 12:30 the day of the meeting. I was like, oh yeah, that was today.
Vanessa's really good.
Good. Cool.
That's a plug. Vanessa, if you're listening, you can tell Jenny that.
Good job. All right. Anybody else? Councilmember Bador have it? All right.
Okay, Chamber West, which is the Regional Chamber of Commerce, represents West Jordan and several other West Side cities. They have a board of governors and they have a board of directors. Currently, Council Chair Jacob is the board of governors, board of directors, both. And then Councilmember Green is the board of governor only, which is how their bylaws are set up. So it's two names. They have, and Councilmember Jacob, you can maybe square me up with this. The odd months, I think, are the board of governors, and the even months are the board of directors.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And they have a breakfast meeting on the odd months, and they have a lunch meeting on the even months.
Yes, and actually, as a member of the board of directors here, they also allow you, or if you're interested, you can serve on their legislative policy committee, which is a lot more interactive and a lot more participatory, let's say, than the leagues. The chamber has a lot more active and open discussion. It's a smaller committee. Obviously, there's probably 45 or 50 people on it. They meet twice a week during the session. When I was doing it, I would only go to one of those. They meet once at the Capitol and then once at Jordan Valley Hospital, or Holy Cross Jordan Valley Hospital. And that's a morning meeting. The one at the hospital is a morning meeting. I think the one on the Hill is a lunch meeting. One's Monday, one's Wednesday or Thursday. And that's a fun one to really talk about how legislation affects the business community and what they'd like to see supported and not supported. And they're very effective. Their lobbying is very effective. They do a lot of meeting with representatives, especially from their footprint, but not just those in their footprint. The sponsors of the bills that they're talking about, they'll meet with them, and that chamber has some weight. It's the second or third largest chamber in the state, I think. So they've anyway, it's really good. And if you're on the board of directors or whatever, you can do that. I'll step down from that one this year and let somebody else do it.
So I have two people that would like to serve with Chamber West. One is a member of the board of governors and one to serve as a board of directors.
I think the way we did it last time is that Councilmember Jacob was board of directors and board of governors. I was the alternate.
That's correct.
But the board of governors allows the alternate that the board of directors does not.
Correct. Thank you for the reminder.
So it's really one person that goes to all the meetings, and then if it's the board of governors, the alternate can go based on the primary reaching out and doing that.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any volunteers?
All right. I'll put my name in if nobody else does for the primary.
Councilmember Lamb, anybody else?
Anyone for an alternate?
I'll take the alternate.
Okay. Now you saw that next row disappear as we were discussing. That's because I found out previously, and I forgot to tell Mr. Hallmark, that the Western Girls Coalition has disbanded and they're not meeting. So we'll just move on to the Association of Municipal Councils. It's Salt Lake County. They typically meet the second Tuesday at noon. They just chose the chair, as Councilmember Green mentioned in his council remarks. And they meet at the chair's city location. So for this coming year, they would meet at Murray City Hall, brand new City Hall. That's where you would meet. So is there anyone that would be interested in serving as the representative to the Association of Municipal Councils?
I'd like to continue on that.
This one does allow an alternate if there's someone who's interested in being an alternate if you can't make it, Councilmember Green. Looks like Councilmember Bloom is raised.
Councilmember Bloom, are you raising your hand for alternate or for primary or?
Alternate.
That sounded like alternate.
It was, yes.
All right.
So we'll do that. And then we'll move on to the next page. And we'll update the worksheet and then send this out to all of you and to staff.
Do we need an alternate for COG?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in council rules, this is not in code, but in council rules, there are these standing council subcommittees. The 6 that are defined in council rules are utility rates and enterprise funds, land use, general plan, mayoral appointments, council rules, and budget and audit. And then committee of the whole is the full council. These are up to the schedule of the individual council members who choose to participate in these different groups. Typically, utility rates enterprise fund will meet in the winter in preparation for the budget. Land use issues typically meets monthly, but they haven't met for a while because land use now goes to committee of the whole. Generally, this would be kind of a referral committee as I see it now. The general plan, that one probably later this year will start to ramp up what the council would like to do in any updates with the general plan. They have to be updated every 5 years, but it takes us a couple years to put it together. Mayoral appointments, that one meets whenever there's an appointment, but the council has directed us to make some changes to Title II. So the frequency of that committee will be a little bit less because the executive committees will not go through an advice and consent procedure based on direction by the council. Council rules is a committee that is dictated by need, but at least annually to go over the council rules document, kind of the Bible of how the council operates. And then the budget and audit committee is also a winter, springtime, March to June, typically to discuss different budget elements with Ms. Steck and her team. And then we are required by statute, state law, to have an audit committee. It doesn't necessarily have to have budget, but we've combined those together and they would review the audit with the finance team and the auditors. And then they would, that whole team would present to the council when the audit's complete. And those are the committees. You can have a maximum of 3. So that there's not a quorum. If there's any questions on those, or pick the ones you want to sign up for.
Just something that I would like to throw out to the council for a quick discussion here while we have this one up is how many of these do we want to keep doing? I know on the mayoral appointments committee, it's been kind of a rubber stamp. They'll send out the applications and things, but we generally very deferential to whoever the mayor wants to, as you've seen, right? When the discussions have come up, it's gone to Councilmember Pack at the time, who was the chair of that committee. And so, yeah, we got no problem with who the mayor wants to appoint. And that's generally been the case, right? It's been kind of very deferential. When I kind of started thinking about this, I envisioned it functioning very different than it ended up functioning. I saw it more as kind of how the legislature has specific legislators who have sometimes personal experience or personal expertise in certain issues or whatever, like, you know, the developers will serve on land use things, and the insurance salesman will serve on, you know, some financial services committee or whatever it might be, you know, and they've got a they hear the bill before the whole body does, and they kind of give their expert opinion, and then the whole body may or may not be deferential to that, but it kind of streamlines the process for them. For us, it didn't do that. It kind of, for a lot of these added steps to processes, which wasn't the idea, right? I mean, my thought behind like land use was, well, we heard from developers, they want to hear the opinion of the council before like the final vote, because they want to know what council might be thinking so they can work that into their plans. Well, it ended up being kind of like, well, you got to get our approval before you can go to the council, and that wasn't really the idea. I'm just wondering, are these, have they run their course? I mean, do we still need them? What are your thoughts, Councilmember Green?
The idea of these was supposed to be able to do some work behind the scenes and to streamline the process. Land use failed because the land use committee would make recommendations 3-0, 2-1, and then 4 other council members rejected it. So the land use did not work because nobody I'm going to say that nobody respected the work that the land use committee did, and it did not work well. However, that being said, I think that all of these are a mechanism. I'm going to say, even like land use, I think that land use, the general plan, all of these are an opportunity to work on issues. Let me give you an example. Land use. I'm going to say this is a precursor to something that I'd like to see later on this summer. But Title 13, 14, and Title 13 at least, if not 14 and 15, need to be reworked. We've got a lot of contradictory sections in the policy. We've got vague stuff, and it hasn't been reworked in a long time, and maybe we need to rework Title 13. And that's where the land use could help make some proposed changes in structure in ordinance, and not necessarily the land use stuff with the developer. So, you know, general plan, it's really not, I actually see the general plan committee now becoming more useful, because we need to start. General plan, as Mr. Anderson said, has to be updated once a year. Well, or not once a year, every 5 years, but to do it right, so that we're not taking 3 years to do to do a general plan update, and then that it makes it 13 years the last time we updated the general plan. The general plan committee should be able to work with amongst itself and a citizens committee and update a couple of chapters every year. And if we updated 2 chapters a year, there's 2 years that we would have to do 3, and we would update the general plan every 5 years. So I'd like to see that one continue. Mayoral appointments kind of spun off the way we did something, when it actually spun off when Cindy got hired with the city, because there were small groups of them that went and actually interviewed Cindy, and it seemed like it worked. And so that's what we did. But I think you're right on the mayor appointments right now. It's been pretty deferential. And so I'm not sure I care much about mayoral appointments. The council rules, I'd love to keep that one. And budget and audit, I think it works. I think the budget and audit, if we do it right, gets a chance to help with the budget early on, and help with some of those kind of things. But, well, and as Alan said, by statute, we need an audit committee anyway. So that one has to exist. So those are my.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councilmember Green on the land use issues, as I served on that with him and Councilmember Whitelock, and we had some good discussions, but then it would get back to council, and there were 4 others that never had those discussions. So is there a use for it? Yes, but if we can do it in a work session, that probably makes more sense where all 7 of us are looking at that. So yeah, I would say that one probably one that I'm not gonna say don't need, but we can move that to work session. And then on the budget and audit, this is my observation from outside watching for the past 2 years, is it was very similar, where 3 members were looking at the budget and then it would come back and the other 4 disagreed with the findings of the budget. So it's another gray area where, yeah, you've got 3 people that are on that and they talk about it, but then when it comes back to the other 4, they hadn't talked about it. And so there were still some differential going on. So that one's, I'm kind of 50-50 on that one.
Yeah, and you know, the legislature is 75 people in the House, right? 29 people in the Senate. It's a different body. There's only 7 of us. It's not that hard for 7 people to hash something out, right? In a work session. I'll defer comment on that question. You know, and most of these things do eventually come back to a work session where everybody chimes in anyway. So so with that said, who would like to serve where? Budget and audit we have to keep, and anybody who feels strongly about any of the others.
I would like to put my name in for utility rates and enterprise funds.
But not budget and audit? What if we merge those 2? Because utility rates and enterprise funds are part of the budget.
Okay, that's good.
Alan, so oh wait, we got priority mic things here going on. So Councilmember Whitelock.
My belief is, other than budget and audit committee, we don't really need any of these committees. I don't think they've been effective. And again, I think they've been a waste of time, a lot of mine.
Councilmember Green.
I was going to ask, are they part of the council rules?
These are listed in council rules, but the council has the purview to change it. And when we meet as council rules, we can modify or change these.
So should we have a council rules committee meet on whether we should get rid of the council rules committee?
Yeah. So the point is, if we're going to eliminate these, then what we've got to do is just say we're not going to fill them tonight, and then we're just going to say we're going to eliminate them from council rules the next time we amend council rules.
If I may, Councilmember Green and Chair, I don't think my observation of doing this for 4 years, it's not that the committees weren't functional. I think there was just a lack of communication between the work the committee was doing and minutes that needed to be compiled and communicated with everybody. And I think you had 3 that had additional information that 4 didn't have, and decisions were made based on that. I don't know that these were bad. I just think the process, the system to get the information out completely to the full body may have not been as complete.
Well, okay, going back to what Council Member Jacob said, the idea was that these committees should do some sort of heavy lifting before we get to a group, right? The idea of mayoral appointments is to let 3 people help interview what the mayor said, make some recommendations so that we all don't have to meet. Is what we, because with a mayoral appointment, let me go back and Josh can correct, city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong on state statute. But generally, the only people that we normally interview in an open meeting are a replacement for city council, like what we did with Mr. Bennett. Most of the other interviews, when you do those interviews, you do it in a closed meeting. And so the question is, do we really want to have an opportunity to meet and discuss with the city with an appointment? And some of us we do, some we probably do, like when we appointed Mr. Chandler. But
you know, some of the other committees, maybe we don't. So that's my dilemma is, do we want to meet as a body of 7 people in a closed meeting, or do we want 2 or 3 people to do, you know, we want 3 people to do some lifting. I'm going to tell you, I don't think we can eliminate the budget and audit because that's required by statute. So I think we ought to fill that one at least. Maybe we can talk about the rest at some point in time. I don't know. Maybe none of them are really pressing right now, except I would say the audit committee. So maybe if it's okay with the council, might I suggest just filling that role, because that is a statutory required committee, if not the whole council.
Yeah, and
Minimum of 2.
And yeah, and I would say that most of this stuff does come to committee of the whole at some point or another, in one way or another anyway. Like mayoral appointments, for example, what you were saying, doesn't come to a committee of the whole, but any, you know, we all get the resumes and the applications, right? We all get emailed those. This is who the mayor would like to appoint to X, Y, and Z committee.
I never got those.
Did you only send those to the committee?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But you could send it to all 7. Sorry, I thought everybody was getting those. Silly me. If you send it to all 7, any individual is free to reach out to that person on your own time, give them a phone call, send them an email. I'm concerned about this, or I like this, or tell me more about this, and have that dialogue. If it happened, I only did that a couple of times on the on that committee, but you know, obviously any one of 7 can do that just as easily as one of 3 can do that.
Well, and there is a section of code that says all deliberations of the council are done by the council, and
right, deliberations of council members. Like I'm deliberating on anything when just thinking about it, right? Self deliberation, whatever you want to call it. But you're right. The debate, the discussion happens with all 7 anyway. So I don't mind throwing budget and audit and let's get that done, and let's pretend that utility rates and enterprise funds are part of the budget, and let's fill that line, and then we'll have a further discussion or a you know, just talk about that. Mr. Anderson, one more time.
So you're just, if I heard what you said, we're just going to fill the line that says budget and audit, but combine utility rates and enterprise with both of that. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm suggesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Without objection. Councilmember Lamb, how do you feel about your name being right there?
That's great. One question I had on the information, it's got a chair, vice chair, and member. So are we just putting names on right now and worrying about that later?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to be part of budget. I want to be part of budget and audit this year.
Okay. Councilmember Green. Does anybody else want to do this?
I'd be interested in serving as a member, but not as a chair or vice chair.
Okay. Councilmember Shelton. Anybody else want to be in this, and we can rock, paper, scissors for it? Okay. Councilmember Shelton. Okay. Anybody feel strongly about chairing that meeting? It's very workshoppy. There's not a whole lot of chairing that goes on, but
yeah, it's mainly a listening board on this one. I think it needs a minimum of 2, no more than 3. So I think this is good. And this will be the report mechanism required by the state of Utah with the audit report.
Yeah. Thoughts?
You good?
Anybody want to just be chair on paper?
All right, just put me as chair and put Kelvin.
Councilmember Lamb put his name down first, so we'll call him chair. Okay. In as much as there needs to be one. All right.
All right. So let me ask one more question. The general plan one. I'm not tied to most of the others, but the general plan one, do we want to have that, or do we just want to, I'm just throwing this out. Do we want to do, or do we just want to appoint the council members to the committee and they just be part? Because generally what we were doing was that we'd have the citizens meet, put some feedback, and then the general plan committee would meet outside that so that they don't influence and help put some feedback on it. But, or do we just want it? We just create the committee and we create some direction, and then we just
bring it back to committee of the whole?
I think that's up to the council. The general plan hasn't even been fully adopted for a year. That would happen in April. I don't know that there's an urgency right now. We can visit this a little bit later, but I think by the end of the year, the committee needs to be up.
Well, and I agree. What we need to do, and even if it's only been a year, right? There are probably 2 chapters that we can update now. May not be. And what I'm suggesting is the closer we are to the time that we can update them in those 5 years, it's simpler to update too. If we wait till 5 years from now and then appoint a committee and it takes 3 years, then it's 8 years, right? If we start something this summer, that's why I'm thinking we start something this summer. But the question is what's the process if we want to just appoint a citizen group and not have council members provide any initial feedback or anything, or appointed to that committee, I'm okay with that if that's the direction.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm pretty open to how the council wants to do this. The committee, our committees are 3-year terms, so the general plan committee terms, I think they expire January 1st for the most part. So
The general plan committee got disbanded because we did that by motion and resolution.
That's correct.
So we would appoint,
start again.
we would start again. And then they can go up to 3 years, but if we decided we wanted to just appoint them for
1, 2, and 3 kind of.
the duration, or just the duration of the update of the chapter, we can look at that. That's
So
where I'm
maybe you bring up some good plans, and I'm just trying to think through the systems and processes on this, but maybe it would be beneficial for 2 or 3 of you to be on a general plan committee to start setting the framework.
Let's put that discussion on a work session. We'll have that discussion. We'll talk about it. Leadership talk about it offline, and we'll figure out a good course of action for it. But I think you're right. I think it's a discussion that needs to happen
and build the framework.
And then and see where we want to go, and then we'll bring it back. We'll all discuss it, and we'll make a call on that.
Would you like us to move on?
Yeah. So with that said, for tonight anyway, let's move on to 6C. Unless there's more. Is there any more of these?
I saw something about the youth council.
Oh yeah.
I want to still.
Who wants? Yeah, I for youth council. That was on a separate section. I didn't update it on this.
So before we go to 6C.
Before you go there, youth council. We have a functioning youth council, and we'll be recruiting again shortly for next year's youth council for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So Councilmember Green has been great. Councilmember Whitelock has been wonderful. Councilmember Worthen, when she was involved before she left. Councilmember Bador has interest, it looks like. Councilmember Green.
Okay, why don't we, while we got this up, why don't we replace one of these lines with youth council?
Just so you can capture it.
Just so it's on here, yeah. There we go, right at the top. And I think we saw, now, do you want to talk about what you've been doing or how often you've been meeting or anything like that?
Youth council meets once a month. I missed the last meeting because we got some communication lines crossed, but normally meets about once a month. Sometimes it'll be twice a month depending on the activity, but it's once a month. It's the second Tuesday. It's the second Tuesday in the afternoon after school. About 4 o'clock, isn't it? Is that what we were doing? Warren was 4 o'clock. So it's after.
Okay, so I have Councilmember Green, Councilmember Bador. Is that everyone? Anyone else?
Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Given Councilmember Green's passion for this one, I would nominate you for life. Cool. Okay, now let's move on to item 6C. My computer's about to die, so I'm going off of the big screen.
You know, they've had things called power supply.
I know, and I left it plugged in next to my couch where I was sitting this morning.
Give you a hard time, so.
Okay, this is the meeting schedule for city council agency boards. Looks like a lot of different colors. I just wanted to highlight a few things. We already did the oath of office on the 3rd. The red circles are dates for city council meetings. The grayish purpley kind of circle in between them are work sessions. The green, January 16th, is when the legislative session starts. We have our annual retreat on the 26th and 27th. It's a city retreat. You can see pretty much the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th weeks are city council meeting, but there are some exceptions, and I want to just highlight those really quick. So if you move to June 2024, in the state of Utah, well, nationally, there is a
Hold on, you missed April. April's an exception
April,
because
yes,
of
thank
ULCT.
you. I missed the picture up there.
Yeah.
April, there would be no work session. The 17th, 18th, and 19th is when the ULCT conference is being held in St. George. So there would be no work session, just those 2 meetings. We go to June. June 19th is a federal holiday called Juneteenth. However, in the state of Utah, the Utah legislature has declared that that day is, if it's not on a Monday or Friday, has to be on the closest weekend to that. So by state law, Juneteenth will be June 17th in Utah. However, we have enough space with May having 5 weeks. We still have a week between if we move that work session to the 5th. While the rest of the country is celebrating Juneteenth, I don't know that we want to meet. That's just my recommendation to you. You can change it if you would like. But that is something unique the Utah legislature has done. July, if you look at that one, the Western Stampede will be the 4th, 5th, and 6th. We have a council meeting on the 10th. The 24th is a Utah holiday. I don't know that anybody wants to come to council meeting, including you, on the 24th. You may have barbecues and other things. But July has 5 weeks, so we can still meet 2 meetings a month by having a meeting on the 31st. And because it is 5 meetings, we still have a break in August. So we have good pacing. If you remember switching from October to November, we had 6 meetings in a row. September, the first week of September, the 4th, 5th, and 6th is the ULCT. That'll be in Salt Lake at the Salt Palace. 18th would be the work session. October, just like it normally is. You'll see that November, we move to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's so that we avoid the holidays, the 6th, 13th, and 20th. In December, there would be no work session. It would just be the 2 meetings, the 4th and the 18th, and that would conclude 2024. There is no election this year, municipal election, so there is no board of canvass. That'll show up on this calendar in 2025. But this is what is being proposed to the city council, all meetings beginning at 6 p.m.
Is there some other election this year? I don't know what. Yeah,
There's other elections, but none that affect you that need to meet.
Oh, they affect us.
Well, okay.
Let me tell you. Okay. Thoughts on this discussion? I'll tell you that I have heard from some members of staff, and I won't throw anybody under or over a bus, that they would prefer coming twice a month like we did up until this year, or this previous year. We only did this twice a month. And for a while we were doing work sessions before the meeting at 5:30 and then starting the official meeting at 7, the business meeting. I have heard some requests to go back to that. I like that idea. Being the one that lives the furthest from City Hall, has the furthest to drive, not including staff. We have some staff that live a lot further away than I do. Just a thought on that. I wouldn't mind going back to that, but let's have a discussion. Councilmember Whitelock.
I thought you were first. I truly feel that you need a separate work meeting. I don't believe that all of the staff has to come to every meeting. But I think that when they're here for a thing on their work meeting schedule, here's the deal. If we just did the work on the work meeting and we came and voted on them on the other meetings, you wouldn't have to have all those people here because they wouldn't have to worry about us changing everything when they got their final document to us to vote on. My concern is the citizens. When you make this meeting so bloody long, nobody comes, nobody wants to stay. We see them leave. It's just too much. And And I personally signed up to serve the community, and I feel the better way to serve the community is by serving. And that means putting in extra days, even if that means you have to drive an extra time. I don't think any of those reasons should be. And we are here to do the people's work, not the staff's work. I appreciate what staff does, but they are here also to serve the residents. We're not here to serve staff. So aside from our staff, that's who we need here. Our staff and the mayor would want to be here, and then he can decide with his, and we should have an attorney present, whether it's a city attorney or a council attorney, and that's another discussion. But aside from that, I struggle when we're not putting the city first, and that's what this seems like. The city should come first.
Councilmember Green.
I have a slightly different take. I'm concerned about staff. But having a meeting at 5:30 doesn't fix the concern with staff. I mean, it stops them from coming from another night. But the fact of the matter, there's two issues here. One, they're still spending time, and some of our when we had the meetings that started at 5:30, we were going until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. When we have public hearings, I mean, I want you to think about this from a management perspective. We've had a couple of meetings, several meetings over the last year or two, and I anticipate those same kind of meetings again coming up, particularly on land use. If we start at 7 o'clock, the public hearing is going to go until 9:30, 10. I have seen Salt Lake City. Of course, they have 200,000 residents, but I've seen Salt Lake City take public hearings until 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't like that. That doesn't do our staff any good. So the other issue with the meeting starting at 5:30 is that we don't get, and we saw this over and over and over again. Oh, we've only got an hour. We've only got an hour and 10 minutes to talk about this issue. And then, oh, we got to go. We got to go to the next meeting. And so we don't get to thoroughly deal with the topic, and we end up having issues because of that. So I don't like the hour 15 quote unquote committee of the whole, because I don't think it accomplishes its purposes. I have no problems going to 2 meetings a month if we do what other cities do. And I know that there are a bunch of council members that won't do that or can't do that because of employment. But the 2 meetings a month would actually make more sense if we start at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For those of you that don't know, Provo starts at noon. Salt Lake City starts between noon and 2:30. If I'm right, Alan, am I close? West Valley does the same thing. A couple other cities do the same thing. I don't have any problems doing a 2 meeting a month, but if the way we respect staff and staff time is to do that during the workday so that they don't have to come and put in extra, because what happens, and Mayor, you can just go north and south on this one, but when we have meetings and even late meetings, people aren't here on, a lot of the department heads or other people aren't here on Fridays because they had to take time off for council, right? So the way that we are actually more considerate of staff time is to meet in the afternoon during their work time, accomplish the work, and then after we're done with that, take a break, and then have the meeting that shouldn't only take more than an hour and a half, unless it's a long public hearing. So I'm okay with 2 meetings a month if we start at 2 o'clock in the 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Otherwise, we just need the time to be able to. I mean, right now we've got enough things on the work. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I read PrimeGov right, Alan, but we're already full with work items for next week and February, and we're bleeding into March already.
No, by moving Title I to work session, you now have 12 items in queue for work session. So now, if you do 4 per meeting, January, February, and March, you're full for work session. So now we're looking at April.
Mm-hmm. And that's where, you know, so, you know, I just to backlog that, I just assume go to 2 meetings a month, and have two work sessions a month, for the same amount of time, but just do it in the afternoon. But I know that would go over like we could pick up the Delta Center and throw it across the street. So, yeah.
Let's do that too. Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Chair Jacob. This has nothing to do with amount of meetings, but this has something to do with turnaround that I've watched and observed for the past year. It's taking forever for things to get back to the council. So, for instance, right now, no work session, can't get anything done this week. It'll be pushed to next week, and then those things, because of the turnaround, with the 2-week turnaround we have, they won't get back on until the 14th of February, which is more than a month. So I'm concerned about the turnaround on some things. I don't know if we can have a hybrid of some things where it doesn't take a whole month for it to go from the 10th of January to the 14th of February, so things can be turned around, because there are some things that need a 2-week turnaround instead of a 4-week turnaround. So that is my concern with having that work session on the 2nd, or I guess it's the 3rd Wednesday, whenever we have that. So I just want to kind of think about that, because I have seen where it takes forever for stuff to come back to us and vote on that. I don't know if we can fix it on the 2-week turnaround on some things and make it quicker. That is my concern. And then, Councilman, you mentioned time. I think half of us could start at 2:30. I think the other half couldn't, just because of jobs. But I get where you're coming from with that.
Councilmember Shelton.
I've heard some very valid arguments and thoughts regarding this. My main concern with moving to a work session before the council meetings is cutting off conversations, which Councilmember Green talked about. But I'm also very moved by Councilmember Lamb's comments of we need to push things through to for applicants as quickly as possible, and that's been a concern for me already. Just looking at things, so I'm not sure how to address that, but I think that is a concern. Get that given. I am in favor currently, but willing to listen. But I am in favor currently of keeping the calendar as it stands.
Thank you, Councilmember Bador.
Just like Councilmember Shelton said, both sides, some stuff here. But one thing I'm noticing is, we talk about this meeting time, and like I said, brand new, so I don't know what we could do here. But my first thought was, I don't want to have to cut a meeting short. We're in a heated discussion about something, but we've got to now change and go to something else. I don't know if we're going to look at something like this, and no one wants to go to these big, long, late meetings, but what if the order changed? What if we did our meeting, a public meeting, and then had the work after? And what we could possibly even do is set up that what we're going to do is we can label, these are the agenda items that need to be met on quickly, and set, as soon as this meeting's done, we can meet on those, boom, 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 and we're ready. Then if we do a meeting like that, still leave open the option of having work meetings if we find ourselves like we are now, way behind and have a heavy workload. We can say we are going to need to have a work session this week and leave those open. I mean, right now there's 10 work sessions on there, and I think it sounds really strange that we're saying I don't want to be here 10 times in a year to work on things. So, and I know that's not what you're saying, but it does come across a little bit like that at times, I'm sure, to some of the people listening. But I do think to what to go to the point made by Councilmember Green and Shelton with the idea of turnaround time, I always find it amazing when I sat here in these meetings and it was like, well, it seems like this is something that just needs a 10-minute meeting to really figure out. Why don't we all just stay here and figure it out instead of, boom, we got to get to Apollo Burger or wherever as soon as we can. So again, new to this format and new to everything that's going on, but as Councilmember Whitelock said, we're here for the people and we got to think city first. And so it can't be about our mileage or our things. That should never enter into what we talk about as the problem. And I say that knowing that I am the person the closest to this room at all times. But I think it might be something to look at. Maybe we change our thing and say that we have a little bit of time after each meeting that can take some time down. And then we can look at these work sessions as to if they are a necessary item at that time. And that's just my blush thoughts on all of this.
Thank you. Before you take a second bite, let's go to Mayor.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you. Several of you have mentioned your concerns about staff, so thank you for thinking of that and taking that into account. Well, let me tell you, we're here to support whatever your decisions are. So however your decision is, we will be there to make sure we support you appropriately and give you the information and resources you need to carry on as you plan.
You know, somehow I knew that's what you were going to say. And we have excellent staff, and they will bite the bullet and do whatever we ask them to do because they're awesome, and they are. But let's have Mr. Anderson weigh in here real quick. He has a thought. And then
There's been some comments on timing, and I want you to know that this calendar was put together basically because we did it last year. I've talked to each of the new council members about what their schedules are. Had conversations with the mayor and Corbin. I know that this is a heavy lift for a lot of people that put in a lot of hours to benefit the residents of the city. As far as the timing goes, there's some things that go into play with this that I wish could go quicker. Land use decisions will probably take 90 days from the time you discuss it in a work session until it shows up at a council meeting, because we have 2-week public noticing for planning commission, 2-week public noticing for city council. Time for the attorneys. There's a project coming before you next week and the 24th to try and meet what you've asked us to do. Where we're going to kind of review a land use decision that's already had a public hearing and then come back for a decision. For a lot of those things take us time, and I was asked to actually put it on tonight's agenda, and I said I can't for 2 reasons. Number one, council rule says I got to have packets in 2 weeks before the meeting so that we can make sure we have all the information, all the data set for the council for publishing the agenda, and provide time for the legal and Mr. Langford's community development department to review it to make sure that they can compare it to code. So it's been likened to watching grass grow or watching sausage get made, those kind of things. So we track these things, but typically you're going to be a month to have something drafted, 2-week publishing, which you've already told us to do with council rules 2 weeks ahead of time to have the packet in. And I would like to do it faster, but I'm going to need some assistance from you and guidance to make some modifications on how we work, if that's what you want. It would be great if we could work in the afternoon or do work sessions in the afternoon like a lot of cities have done over many, many years, but the folks that ran on the calendar that we have. And it may need to be a future discussion as work schedules change or whatnot. But this calendar tries to take into account staff time, tries to take into account the public work, the rules that you've given us to produce, and time for us to do the proper noticing. So like, for example, we're noticing tomorrow for meetings on the 24th, which we're required to by law.
Right. Okay, Councilmember Green.
Just a couple more thoughts.
The reason why the council rules, so I just want to address some of this life cycle. It takes too long. The reason why council rules says to turn it in 2 weeks before is that in theory, what should occur is that it's due on a way. The packets are due tonight, right? Let's just take the cycle. Packets are due tonight. That if it's going to be on the 24th, council leadership meets tomorrow morning, tomorrow sometime. They can review the packets and the agenda and make sure that it's okay. If the agenda is okay, then the agenda can be published. What we have done is that we've slid away from that schedule, and that gives us the agenda being published almost 10 days before the meeting. And that gives us a time to review the final packet. What happens when things get pushed, and we've seen this because we've done it in the past, is that when things get pushed, then we end up with the wrong version of the document in the packet, the wrong versions uploaded to PrimeGov, those kind of things. And what it also precludes us from doing is forcing us that what we have to do is spend the weekend before a council meeting reading packets because the packets aren't published until Thursday or Friday or Monday before the meeting. And that's what I think what we're trying to avoid with the council office is to be more proactive and get these things in early so that they're published sooner.
Council rules right now is the packets are in 2 weeks and we publish the Thursday before the meeting by council rules.
I know, and Alan, I'm going to tell you, publishing the agenda Thursday before the council meet rules gives us less than a week to review a packet.
Then I need a consensus.
I know,
Okay.
I know, and I
That's our
got it.
direction.
We changed that council rule, and I wasn't a fan of it. But the other thing is that, and Mayor, this is more for you. There are lots of times that the staff doesn't have to be here that they are, and I know that you want some of the staff here for citizen comments and those kind of things, but I would respectfully request that, I think that they all left because citizen comments is over. But I would respectfully request that on some of that, I don't think they need to be here. I think that council office staff or some of the others are more than capable, and some of your staff that are here are more than capable of taking down some citizens' names and phone numbers and having the right person follow up with them, that they don't have to get with them that meeting. So I would just request that, we take a look if we go to this 3 meeting a month. If we adopt this calendar, I would just ask that you just kind of look at that and see if there's ways that we can not have the staff here as much if they're not going to be, be involved in the meeting. So, Councilmember Lamb, and then I want to chime back in.
Okay, I'll keep this brief. One thing I would like to see, because I've heard this watching from the sidelines for 2 years, and I'm hearing it tonight, is we have a lot to do. We got a lot to get done. So we need that work session. That's great. However, when there's a meeting where we have just an hour on a regular council meeting and we're done by 7 or 8 o'clock, that's where I would say, well, let's move some of that information to after that, from 8 to 9 or whatever. And instead of having a short meeting and having more stuff to do later on, we could do stuff on nights where there's no public hearings. So I mean, if there's 2 public hearings, no, we don't want to have any work sessions on that night. But let's say it's a really light schedule. All there is council remarks and public comments. Why not do an hour of work session that night? Because if we're really that backlogged, we can use that time rather than just showing up for a meeting and leaving by 8 o'clock.
Councilmember Shelton has a thought on that.
I love that idea, but my question is, does that follow public meeting rules as a noticed meeting if we do it extemporaneously?
As long as we agendize it. So if council leadership puts the agenda together and we know it's a short meeting, we have 2 business items that should be relatively quick. Now, I say should be relatively quick. I have told my wife many times, oh, I should be home by 8 tonight, and I show up at 10:30. You know, as long as the leadership is putting the agenda together, recognizes that it looks like a short agenda, we can put it on the agenda. And worst case scenario, those items go long, we move to adjourn, we kick it off the agenda. So
what I would recommend if we go down that road, a couple of things. One, I don't want to hear anybody complain about how damn late it is and Apollo Burger's closed. Okay. But two, what we would do is we would agendize that as a committee of the whole. You got your council meeting, agendize it with a separate agenda with committee of the whole. Right. And that would be separate in Prime Gov. It would show a committee of the whole. It would show that it would start to be determined. Right. And then if we don't have enough time, we would just
kick it.
We would just kick it and move it to move those and kick it.
I actually like that idea, and it's leadership. We can work on that.
Well, I mean, technically right now, this is like a work session.
Well, this has become one. So one other thought I had that I wanted to bring up and make a controversy real quick, and then we can vote on this. This council used to meet on Tuesday nights. This is before any of our time. I think before any of our time. Kaylee, were you on the school board at that time? Because they moved it to Wednesday nights because the school board met on Tuesday nights. And at that time, school board was meeting over here at across the street. And they moved it so that you could attend the school board meeting and attend your council meeting, which was great. And then the other meetings pop up on Wednesday nights, and well, we're always gonna have a conflict. But when I asked to serve on the water board, I was somewhat adamant that I wanted it to be an elected official. We had a proposed appointment of staff from the mayor's office, and other cities do send staff. You know, the city manager from Taylorsville is on the board, for example. And I was kind of adamant that I think it should be an elected official. And has been mentioned, yeah, once or twice that's made me late to this meeting. I'm not going to serve in that position forever. Other council members, I hope, will in the future. You know, in future terms. What do you think about moving the second Wednesday meeting to the first Wednesday meeting? Now, there's a couple months where we have a conflict on that, like September, there's ULCT, and but we're already doing it December and November. I would say we move October's, August. We don't have to move all of them, but you know, so that there's not a conflict, not just for me, but in the future when there's other council members serving that role, it might be good to have that not conflict if we want to keep a council member on that board. Councilmember Green, thoughts?
I'll sound even more radical. I'd rather move the whole damn set of meetings to Tuesday. Reason why? Because then we don't have to have all the weird meetings in election year to have board of canvassers on an odd night, and then we're meeting on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So I almost, if we wanted to change the meeting schedule, I'd almost rather, and I don't have a problem moving something to the first Wednesday and having it be the first and the third and the fourth or whatever. It doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter to me. I'm almost wondering, there's most of the other cities, I think almost all the other cities meet on Tuesday nights. And so, you know, sometimes Tuesday night's not the greatest because it's a day after a holiday. But I don't know. I'm open to most anything if it accomplishes what we need to accomplish.
Councilmember Whitelock.
I would suggest that we either move all of them or none of them. It's very confusing for residents, and they kind of get upset because they think that we're meeting on a Wednesday and then they show up and we didn't have it. And even though we publish, it's still an issue. So I don't care if it's Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. I'd rather it not be Saturday, but I don't care what day we meet. But I would request that it just be a consistent day because it's easier for residents. Um, and, and, and I'm okay doing a work meeting after a short business meeting. Um, and I'm okay starting at noon on a day if we want to do that. I'm okay entertaining either of those. I'm just know that our people's business requires more than 2 meetings with the half-baked work meeting before.
Councilmember Lamb, did you want to?
I just wanted to clarify, were you talking about moving just the work meetings to Tuesday or all meetings?
I'd actually be okay all meetings to Tuesday if that's what we chose we want to do. I'm okay with the same if there's, so for example, I'm going to use the example, Alan. We know that Liberty Homes is coming up with that Parker Place coming back, right? If tonight was going to be a short meeting, I wouldn't have a problem adjourning this and addressing something short like that after this meeting, or if there's going to be something. There's a lot of times, and maybe this is where council leadership can deal with this. There's a lot of times that a council, well, the council member will bring forth and they'll put something on an RCA. I'll give you the example, right? The RCA about, do we want to amend the chicken ordinance to allow chickens and ducks, right? That was a fairly short discussion to say, does the council want to proceed? And so maybe, so just follow me through. Maybe what we do is that if there is particularly the introduction of items to the council to say, do we have 4 votes that want to proceed with modifying this code or working on this issue? Those could be very simple to have in a work session after, because those are really just simple introduction and procedural votes to say, yeah, let's work on that more. No, we don't want to work it. You know where I'm going with that? And so maybe that's a way that we can get some of these items so that we're not backlogged into March. We can get some of because there are a lot of items that we do introduce that just really need, because the way the council rules are is that you have a sponsor in a second, but then to proceed to spend staff time, you have to have 4. Well, most of those discussions don't take very long to move that and say, yeah, that's what we want to do. And here are some parameters that we want to do it in. So those may be the kind of discussions that we want to have on the other 2 and leave the heavy discussion stuff for that Wednesday. Yeah, we can talk about that as part of just part of the agenda. Alan, did you want to weigh in before I go to Councilmember Shelton?
Just really quick, I would suggest not moving the meeting to Tuesday. The Planning Commission has already adopted their 2024 calendar. So that can maybe be a future discussion, but not for 2024 would be my strong suggestion.
We can kick them out. No, I'm just kidding. Councilmember Shelton, as there's 4 former Planning Commission members here.
So I really love the idea of adopting a work session after a council meeting. But I'd like to just ask council this question. Would it be a disservice to our applicants if we tell them there's going to be a discussion on their item and they show up, they wait, then we have a long meeting and sorry, we just can't do that today. What are your thoughts on that?
That's why I suggest that we do the introduction items and those kind of things that don't have external applicants, because they only affect us. And so that's where the leadership can look at the agenda item and say, oh yeah, Councilmember Green and Councilmember Bloom want to talk about electric golf carts on city streets coming up, by the way. And is that something we want to do? Well, the council can easily say, but if that discussion got postponed, it's not an urgent issue, right?
And so that's where I would go with this is if we decide that we want to have, we're going to have a short meeting and we want to get some of these things out of the way. The ones that we get out of the way are the ones that don't require staff time or applicant time, that it's a procedural vote. Yeah, we want to move it forward. No, we don't. We're going to kill this. Those kind of things. I think that's where the appropriateness, and then we wouldn't be wasting that time. So yeah, if it was an applicant, no, they got to plan on the scheduled meeting. If it's an internal thing about, hey, what about these 3 changes to code? We can talk about, that's simple, right? And it doesn't require anybody.
I am kind of curious. Is there anybody? 2 of you mentioned starting earlier. 3 have mentioned starting earlier. Is there anybody that can't start in the middle of the workday?
One that would be tough for me is to do that twice a week.
Twice a month?
I mean, twice a month. Twice a week would be even harder to do. But twice a month would get, I mean, and the place I work for, they're very politically motivated, so they understand. But if I had to tell them, twice a month, I have to leave. But if it was something that we did once a month, might be something I could swing and say, this is what's going on.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm just curious. I don't want to upset anybody's schedule. Like has been mentioned, you ran for office this year on the schedule you thought it was going to be. So I don't necessarily want to tip the apple cart too much, but I did want to just ask who that applies to. I know it also applies to Councilmember Bloom. She would have a hard time with that most days or most weeks also. Councilmember Whitelock.
I just wanted to say I agree with Councilmember Shelton. We just have to be cognizant of what we were putting on there, but I'm sure leadership would, especially with Council Office Director Anderson, I'm sure they'd look at that closely, because definitely we wouldn't want to keep someone here a long time and then us say, the lights just went out in the building and we got to leave.
That's a good point. All right. Does anybody want to move anything on this? Want to do a motion, Councilmember Green?
Yeah, we've talked about this long enough. We can talk about it some more. I'm going to move to approve ordinance number 2402, setting the 2024 annual meeting schedule.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Green, seconded by Councilmember Whitelock, and that's as proposed, as it's scheduled. Okay, currently no modifications. Any discussion to that motion? Councilmember Shelton.
Okay, I need clarity. Are we going to adopt these meetings after that's, because that's not in the ordinance as written?
It's a good question. I think it can be agendized. We can agenda, as long as there's a meeting on the calendar, we can agendize whatever we need to in that meeting. Do you think we need to add potential committee of the wholes? Can we do this on the fly for after council meetings?
You're required to adopt an annual meeting schedule, which is what this is. There's nothing that would preclude. So the way in this form of government, the code works is the mayor can call the council into session, the chair can call the council into session, or any 2 council members can call the council into session. I don't see a concern having extra meetings, but this is the publish. This is what goes out on public meeting notice website, our website. These are when the meetings are. This is when the expectation of the public. You've got West Jordan High, Copper Hills High that use those calendars. I do not believe it precludes you from having an additional committee of the whole, and that would just get noticed.
Okay, and just to clarify, shoot, I had a thought in the middle of that. Oh, the calendar can be amended at any time throughout the year, correct?
Every time you meet, you want to amend it, you can.
Yeah, so amend it at any time by resolution, right? We just have to pass another resolution saying we're changing it. So
thank you.
Ordinance, not a resolution.
Ordinance.
Well, yeah, because you canceled the council meeting early this year.
Yeah, as long as you notice the cancellation, you can.
Yeah. All right.
I'll talk to you after. It's funny. It's by ordinance.
It is funny that it's by ordinance. I agree. All right. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. This is an ordinance, so it'll be roll call. Cindy.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Bador.
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Chair Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Yes.
Vice Chair Lamb.
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton.
Yes.
I'm showing that motion passed 7-0. Thank you.
Move to approve the consent calendar or consent items.
Is that what's next? Hang on.
Second.
Okay, now up next is the consent items. We have a motion from Councilmember Green and a second from Councilmember Whitelock. Any discussion to the motion on the consent minutes? They're just minutes, right? Yep. I lost my tab. All right. All right. No discussion to the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that's why we call it consent. Item 8 is council meeting wrap up. I like wrap ups. Council remarks. Anybody have anything they'd like to say, Councilmember Whitelock?
My only remark is I would prefer that our remarks all be in one thing instead of two when you're putting the agenda together.
So noted. Councilmember Lamb.
Real quick, when you say that, so the beginning of the meeting, those aren't remarks, are they? Those are just council comments.
Well, they're the way we've done it is those
Okay.
the way that it's been done by previous chairs is that should be when you talk about your committee assignments and yada yada, and this is for your whatever.
All right.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I agree. But I just want to say real quickly, I don't know how many citizens are watching, but the political process in West Jordan is great. I've been through 3 elections now, and I lost 1, and I've won 2. That's not saying that it was all about me, but I took the opportunity to run, and I want to thank those citizens who voted for me and gave me this opportunity to be on the council again. I enjoyed my time on the council before, and I know I'm going to enjoy it now. And I think that I work with great people that were elected to serve as well. We aren't going to agree on everything. I knew that coming into this, but at the same time, I do know that we respect each other, and I respect all of you that are here this night. And Councilmember Bloom, even though you're not with us, I respect all of your opinions as well. As you've served on the council the past 2 years, and I'm very excited for this year. And I think we have a lot we can accomplish. When you run for office, you always say, I'm going to do this, and this. And then you get on, you're like, well, I can't do that. Or it doesn't get done. But I am excited to look and see, the future of West Jordan, how we can make it better. So thank you all for running, and thank you all for serving. And I'm excited to work with you.
thank you, Chad. I think that's a great point. We're not meant to have unanimous votes, otherwise we wouldn't need to vote, right? We're meant to discuss and to disagree and to work it out, and then to come to a not a consensus, but a direction, a resolution. And sometimes being on the losing end of a vote sucks, and sometimes it sucks, and then you find out 6 months later, you know what, that was actually the right choice, and I'm glad we went that way, or whatever. But this is, I want everybody to feel safe to disagree on the dais. I think you should feel like even if your opinion is one of 7 and 6 people disagree with you, you should feel free to say that thing, whatever it was, that one thing that you had to say that was different than everybody else's opinion. Because if you don't speak up, we assume we all agree, and we know that's not the case. So just throwing that out there. You took the thing off the screen, and my computer did die. So, Councilmember Bador.
Well, I disagree with you, Council Chair. No,
I appreciate it.
No, one thing that I think that is important with disagreement, I think that's I think that's how progress is made through disagreement. I think I said at the very beginning of this that we need to be 7 equal members, and we need to remember that and respect that at all times. And I think we need to keep in mind that our ideas that we bring here to this dais shouldn't be the ones we plan on leaving with, because none of us are so perfect that whatever we come up with is going to be the right thing. If that happens from time to time, great. But what will come out of here is the idea, is the thing that should come out of 7 minds working together. And I'm excited about that. I respect every member of this council and I look forward to learning from everyone. But what I really look forward to is making sure that voices are heard, that you don't have to feel like you're shut down. Even if you think, like me, that you've got a stupid idea with why don't we start doing some stuff after the meetings? It turns out, well, maybe that was a decent idea. So say the stupid ideas, say the things that you know are going to be disagreed with. Because what I try to tell people is they're sometimes by saying something that you know is wrong helps the minds of others think, why is that wrong? And what would make that right? And that's what we're all here for. Councilmember Whitelock said at the beginning, it's something I thoroughly agree with. We need to think city first in everything we do. That's why we were elected. We were elected by the city. And I'm excited for the 7 of us to work together on everything and have no one feel like they're not a part of the 7, even if they're on the back end of a vote, which I'm sure I'll be on several times, but I'll do that. But I appreciate this offer and I appreciate this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Council administrative items. Do we have anything from, or is that where I'm supposed to talk about stuff?
That's where you can talk about stuff, but you'll get more info tomorrow.
We'll talk about more stuff later.
Just so you know, that was put on there so that the chair could tell us if there wasn't like.
Her name's Kayleen.
That was put on there so that the chair could tell us like housekeeping things, like remind us that this coming Wednesday is those kind of things is the purpose why it was added.
I will have good notes for next time, I promise. That said, thank you, and we'll do our very best. Here's your next meetings, by the way, Committee of the Whole and City Council meeting next 2 Wednesdays. Councilmember Green.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. That is a non-debatable motion. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Just checking. Thank you. We're adjourned.